Call the Committee of the Administration and Veterans Affairs to order at 6:30 p.m. We're going to go to the second item on the agenda, the urging of the New York State Legislature to take action on the synthetic cannabinoids and bath salts. Everyone got some of the material emailed to you. It's just to give them support. Is there anything else you want to add to it, Jim?
No, I think people across the state, local villages, towns, counties are struggling with the actual verbiage for a local law. So we really believe that it makes an awful lot of sense. I think the federal government's starting to move on it now. The state government also move on it so that it's pretty consistent across the state.
I would entertain a motion. Fred? Second?
Second.
By Jim Bono. Any other discussion?
Questions?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Second on the agenda, I was approached after the last meeting by Legislator Poplinski. Would you like to?
Yes, the reason I spoke to the chairman was I have a problem with our resident comment period. It seems like over the last 4 or 5 years it's deteriorated, so that now it's nothing but a negative political tool that's accomplishing nothing but creating a negative attitude toward the legislature, toward the county, and everything else. In the last 4 or 5 years, we've seen a prospective legislator basically announce his candidacy. We've seen self-promotion by different individuals. We've seen our employees attacked through this. It just continues on and on. We've seen outside groups and individuals attacked. And it's just so negative. I would say 90% of any of this that comes out of our comment sessions is negative and it hurts the county. And I was looking at different things that considered different possibilities. And after looking at most of them, I just feel probably the best route to follow right now is to completely eliminate our resident comment period session.
Mr. Chairman, in point of order, I couldn't hear what he said, the best possibility, and then his voice trailed out. I didn't hear what it was.
Is eliminating the resident comment session. Initially, when the legislature was formed, I don't believe there was any rule in there allowing a comment session by the residents. And I guess it was placed in there, and I know initially when I was a legislator, there were a lot of positive things that would come up, but over the last 4 or 5 years, as far as I'm concerned, it's just deteriorated into a fiasco that's not positive. It makes for a lousy working situation in our legislature. I see no advantage of continuing to have it.
Any other comments here?
Yes, I think we should take a moment and think about the consequences of something like that. As a local legislative body, we are said to be closest to the people. Please, and this is just placing another brick in the wall between us and the people. I would ask that we please stop building this wall between yourselves and those that you serve, and stand up for the right to speak. I served on the village board for 12 years, and we always had open discussion with the residents. And I was criticized at times, probably sometimes justifiably, and hopefully I learned from that. I learned a lot of things from the people. Sometimes I thought mine or my colleagues' actions were being mischaracterized or misstated or whatever, and never got out of hand because we would let the speaker speak, and if we thought that we were misinterpreted or somebody made a misstatement, we could always correct it in a civil manner. You're going to get criticism, and what I saw up here so far, that everybody seems to think that such harsh criticism that's causing a difficult environment. I don't know. I've watched legislators in action all over the place, and I think it's minor here compared to what some have been subject to, including at our village board. But when I sat on the village board, to quote from Michael Nutter, the mayor of Philadelphia, if you have a deep-seated need to be loved and admired every day, you shouldn't be in politics. You should go to work in a pet store. So I guess my thought is, let the speaker speak. If you disagree with their position or think they misstated something, we all can civilly get up or sit down, wait for the speaker to speak and correct anything. And if you have a defensible position, by gosh, defend it. Don't be afraid of having somebody speak. I think that's going a bit too far. They're all over the country. It seems like everybody's going for more open government. There's the New York State's got a New York Open Government Online tool. Representative speeches on any subject are televised, put on the record in the floor, and that's contrary to the recent memo we got. I don't know, I've watched villages, towns, counties do it, and it's, I mean, sometimes it's gonna take some criticism, but I think if you're in this business, you better be able to take it, and if you think you're right, there's nothing wrong with correcting it civilly after somebody speaks.
Peter?
I am opposed to eliminating the comment period. I have constituents that have spoken in the past and may wish to do so in the future. I think we should keep it and monitor it better. Every meeting, we say a prayer for the deceased veterans. Those veterans gave their lives for freedom of speech, and I can't see giving up the comment period.
And just to mention one thing that kind of seems like it precipitated this.
Please be
Oh,
recognized.
I'm sorry. Please be recognized.
I just called on
Okay.
Ellen.
I think it's interesting that we have this, and our meetings can last an hour and a half, 2 hours. That within that period of time, that we should be so thin-skinned. If a citizen wants to come before us and tell us we're doing a lousy job, and call us out on it, call us out on any aspect of it, I think that we should be able to handle that. We have ample time, at least under old interpretations of the rules, to address whatever is said. And that was something that we were allowed to do during legislative comment period. I think initially, when I got on the board, there was a tendency to react immediately, and then we were told that we should wait until the end when the legislative comments agenda was put in place. I was an individual who came before this board before I was elected. I brought issues that I felt were relevant. Let's face it, we've got a lot of tough decisions that we need to make. And I don't think there's anything wrong with a citizen wanting to come and collectively talk to us. Absolutely, they can approach any one of us one-on-one, but to collectively talk to us, to tell us what they feel. Should they come up here and ask a question or give what some in the room might feel is misinformation, correct it. If it were broadcast, and we know that that's been a problem for the last 2 meetings, but if those comments were broadcast, the individual who's making that misspeak may well be echoing what they're hearing on other people are saying. You have an opportunity to correct that, especially when it's broadcast. I think that to suggest that it's all negative, absolutely. If someone doesn't agree with you, someone can deem that as negative. Or someone can deem that as information to help you frame your own opinion. To suggest that in this day and age, when transparency is spoken about in all levels of government, that Herkimer County would even consider the idea that we'll shut them out and there's no need to bring them in here because we don't like what they have to say to us. We think they may be rude. We think they may be misinformed, and therefore we don't want to hear it. I don't think it's a testimony to the 17 people in this room or a testimony to the way Herkimer County government should be run. I think that it's an overreaction to some people's discomfort with what people are saying. And are there things that are set up there that maybe misspeak? Let's face it, we have the Humane Society boosters that came in here. We've had people come in here about waterways. We've had people certainly come in and talk to us about the jail. Are we wounded as a result of it? I don't think so. Is it positive? I think it is positive, despite what Mr. Pavlinsky says, he thinks it's negative. It's positive that our citizens have the ability to come and address us collectively. I hope that your committee, Jean, does not accept this as a way to change and block the constituency's ability to come in and give the opinion of the county government or pertinent issues or bringing an issue to us. Certainly, there's very many avenues for them to contact their individual legislator, but the collective voice, that we can hear it collectively and be able to react to it, is something I think we would be shortchanging ourselves to do that. Thank you.
Another thing that was brought to my attention, other than what Bernie had suggested, is to go back to the original way we had the comment period set up several years ago, and that was if one of our citizens wanted to come to address the legislature, that they contact their individual legislator, and explain what the topic is to them, and then have them, the legislator in turn, go to the chairman, get permission to have this person come and speak in front of the legislature, and go on from that point. Yes, Ray?
Madam Chairman, years ago, this legislature, before the residents' comment period was initiated, used to have what you're talking about, where if you was a resident and you wanted to speak, you contacted your legislator. And in turn, your legislator asked the chairman for unanimous consent for you to speak. This method is used today in the Senate and the Assembly of the New York State. And it served its purpose very well. Like Bernie said, we've had people come in here, call us Nazis. We had people come in here and attack one of our legislators. And we've had people get up there and speak, and their whole speech was about getting elected or political things. That's not what we're here for. We're here to do the business of Herkimer County. And we should not be held responsible for people coming in here to just call us names or attack us or do things like that. I think we should go back to what we had years ago. It worked very well then, and I'm sure it can work well now. Thank you.
Thank you. Pat had his hand up. Hi, Gary.
Gene, my concern isn't the fact that people might take shots at us, because I think that's okay. That we're in that position where we should be able to accept what people say. But I do have an issue with people taking shots at our employees. And especially since our employees aren't necessarily allowed to speak on their behalf. I think Gary mentioned somebody says something that's out of line, we can correct it. Well, our procedure's never been that we can correct it. I have been trying to do that at the same time. It's been misspeak, but we usually let people say what they have to say, and then that's it. But there has been some information that's been getting out there that's incorrect. We have to have some kind of an order, some kind of policy or something in regards to what people can say. They can attack me all they want. I don't care. I was elected for this position. It's okay if they say something that's incorrect. I'm going to try to make sure that the public's aware of what is the correct statement. But I do have an issue with, whether we're going after our county attorney or our county administrator or some of our clerks. And I don't think that's right, because we hire those folks. They're doing their job for us. We should be here. Actually making sure that we're sticking up for those folks. Have they made mistakes in the past? I'm sure they have. But that's what our leadership's about. If somebody makes a mistake, you go to leadership, you go to the person directly. Those are my concerns. And to hear the same thing over and over and over again, the jail discussion that we've heard, for 2 years now, the same things. If they're new facts or new ideas, wonderful. please bring them on, but we have a disagreement, and we're disagreeing with some people. Other people in here agree with the folks. But I'm not sure if that's the best use of our time. I think what people are forgetting is that meetings are for the business of the Herkimer County Legislature. It's not for anybody else. For the business of the Herkimer County Legislature. That's what the meetings are for. Every meeting is. How we handle it, obviously, is our own choosing, but that's really the purpose of the meetings.
Yes, Gary.
Well, I happen to believe the purpose of the meetings, I've heard that we are here to do the business of Herkimer County. I just heard it for the second time. We're here to do the people's business. And this seems to be, if not to deny them that opportunity completely, to throw as many hurdles in as possible, unanimous consent where one legislator can say somebody can't speak, and you gotta call your legislator ahead of time. What if somebody read the paper at 6 o'clock? We meet once a month, and they wanna come and have something to say. As far as hearing something over and over, it comes with a territory. I'm not saying the village board was unique in any way, or special. I'm saying what we did is commonplace all over. And what the county is proposing, or some of you, that is unique and uncommon and harsh. We heard subjects before the village board over and over again a number of times, and I happen to disagree with some of those people. Guess what? I listened to them. They had a right to say what they wanted to say. And as far as the employees, I've seen a couple of employees get quite riled up over what I didn't consider a personal attack, like not finding resolution 53 between 26 and 27, or my questioning the legal basis for a brief that was disseminated to everybody that has an intense bearing on the public. I don't think that was uncalled for. And also on the village board, my department heads and employees sometimes took some criticism. You ought to hear about the DPW in winter. And guess what I did? If my employees were correct, and I thought they were being unfairly targeted, I would make that known, and I would stand.
Are there any other comments, Dennis?
Yeah, I remember before we had the public comment period, and then I remember changing it. And what it is it's the privilege of the floor. And it's a privilege to suspend our discourse and our business to allow the public to speak. But if the public's going to continue to cross the line of civility, then this public comment period may be in jeopardy. I think we might be a little premature, but I think the warning flags are up that if the uncivil behavior of the public toward the legislature is going to continue, then maybe that may be our response. But I think it may be premature at this time.
And that's what this is tonight, is a discussion period. Bob?
I think just sitting here listening to all of us talk, this is how a meeting should be held, okay? Dennis doesn't agree with everything Gary says, Gary doesn't agree with everything Dennis says. You give the person the respect. It's called respect to everyone in the, we're elected officials. Some of us aren't elected, but we give those people the same respect as we give the elected officials. We don't shut them down, we don't try to talk over top of them. We're here to do, as everyone else said, we're here to do the people's business. And I think it would be a very big mistake to take that away from the people. They may not be able to make the meeting, they may not be able to do anything, okay, but they know that they can come and speak if they want to take their 5 minutes. It's their right. We're here, we're voted in by those people. And I feel if people in this room, all of us, the residents, every one of us, the voted officials, the appointed officials, the word is respect. You don't like somebody else's decision, we're all opinions, okay? Everybody has their own opinions. That's why we're human. Give the person the respect to hear them out, and then make a decision on what you think. That's all.
Fred, did you say?
Yeah, I kind of discussed this with one town meeting, that's all I made this month. There was quite a few fellows on that board that were veterans. Their pretty objective to shutting the discussion off completely. So I'm gonna make a motion that we continue to try this, but we move the comment period to the end. Then if somebody has a question, it's fresh in their mind, it's fresh in our mind, we've got the people's business done and we can answer it. That should eliminate a lot of this. Bob brought the word respect up. People have to learn to leave their personal vendettas outside this room. No matter who likes who, we're here to do business. I was asked to attend a board meeting at the sewer district. It was professionally run. They got the business done. There was objection by different people, but it wasn't a menagerie we had here last session. So that's going to be my suggestion.
Yes, Howard?
I made notes as different people were speaking, and I think Mr. Russell said that we needed a policy on what they can say. I hope that we don't do that. Civility, absolutely, but the definition of civility, I would imagine it's a two-way street. I have seen people who have come to address us. Now, are they saying the same thing over and over again? I think if we go back and listen to it, in many cases, there are questions that they're asking that they don't feel have been answered. And as far as the jail is concerned, there are a host of questions out there that I wrote and were not answered. I think I share what some of the people feel. They're coming and they're saying, I still haven't had the answer. Now, if they have energy and passion in the way they say it, you know, we talk about, I think Mr. Russell mentioned that department heads or the county administrator or the county attorney, I've seen that on both sides of the street. I would like to think that we could control our passion and make our point. The idea that we would change the rules and have anyone have to come before the legislator to ask permission for that legislator to ask permission from the chairman of the legislature to allow the individuals to speak is just setting up the kinds of things that I believe has been happening relative to those of us on the legislature and our ability to do it. Civility, absolutely, on all sides. The fact that I could be labeled by some as being uncivil, or a citizen coming in as being not civil because you don't like what they have to say. Now, I can say it perhaps in a calm voice, but you may still not like the message that I'm trying to deliver. But this is democracy. Democracy is messy. And that we should ever suggest that the people in our county can't come for a sum total of 20 minutes. And let's face it, folks, we've had many a meeting where there's been nobody signed in.
It's 30 minutes, Howard.
I think you
Well,
got a
30
motion.
minutes, okay, 30 minutes.
Do you have a motion on the floor?
Yes, I do.
You didn't have a second. Then you can clarify that motion, please, because you still called for dialogue.
Okay, and I still will call for discussion after a motion and a
Would
second.
you refine the motion and let us be clear on what it's saying? Because I
Fred,
don't know if
would
Mr.
you like
Peplinsky
to
made the motion
repeat?
or did Mr. Shaw?
Mr. Shaw.
I'll make a motion to move the period to the end of the meeting for residents to address the legislature. That's fair. That way if we have questions, we can answer them.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Bruce? Any other final discussion?
Yeah.
John?
Madam Chairman, it's a very simple thing here.
Respect. I think that was the biggest word I've heard
Well,
tonight.
it's more than that also. It is respect,
On
but,
both.
yes, very, very true. I've been here a long time, I've seen a lot of time. And I'm gonna tell you, the people that come in here and speak and wanna speak, you gotta remember, and everybody in this room has to remember, they're paying the bills. The taxpayers are paying the bills. And we better start listening to them. Because they have every damn right to come in here and talk anytime they want to, talk about the employees, talk about whatever they want to talk, because guess what? They're paying the bills, period. Amen.
Peter?
I thought this was for discussion. Why are we voting on this?
Tonight was just a discussion on this
There's a motion,
policy.
I made a motion.
But Fred made a motion. And Pat?
Well, I just want to say, I mean, Helen pointed out the policy. My policy was in regards to being able to attack our employees. That's all. And whether or not the employees can defend it.
And that goes to that word respect, I think. Both sides, all sides. Yes, Jim? Okay.
Done, Pat?
Pat, were you done?
Yeah, I just
Jim?
want to make that clear. They're attacking us. I don't care.
I concur with what Pat says, but I'll tell you what, folks, as leader or chairman of this legislature, I will not allow our employees, whether administration or just a regular run-of-the-mill, everyday employee, I will not allow them to be attacked. I will gavel you down. There's no place for that in this chamber. I understand the respect thing. I think we've all learned here. But again, like I said last meeting, some of you may not like me, but you should respect the position of the chairman and the order that is needed to be taking place. I would defer to Mr. Malone for legal opinion every now and then. And I've done that, and I will continue to do that. I'm not up on the rules 100%. I don't think anybody is. I look to Mr. Malone or whoever to voice an opinion on that. And I'll judge accordingly, the way I see fit. But if an employee is attacked, I will not stand for it. And I'll tell you what, if it happens next time, that person will be escorted out of the room. I will not stand for it. That's all, plain and simple. Whatever this body decides to do with the majority vote, I'll obey by that.
Pat?
Yeah, there's also an issue in regards to libel and slander. I think Bob should probably address it. If there's any liability on our part, if that's okay.
Well, the legal term is defamation, and that includes slander, and newspapers and other publications always have these things in mind. Something may happen at a meeting that they may or may not publish. One of the reasons they will not publish comments sometimes is so they won't be held liable for repeating slanderous comments about people. If you want to call them untrue personal attacks. And there's a lot of law governing this area, whether you're a public figure or not public figure. It depends on what can be said or not said. But in order to avoid those types of things, folks who are doing broadcasting frequently will not publish or broadcast those remarks. And that's the primary area of liability that anyone taping and broadcasting or repeating personal attacks, that's the risk that you take. As far as someone getting up and without notice to the county, it's interesting that a member puts her hand up when someone is speaking.
I just want to be certain I'm seeing you before it's
I
adjourned.
see you,
Thank you.
It's an interruption. We're talking about respect. And there's another indicator of the lack of it. But the environment that we're in seems, we're hearing a lot of this type of behavior. I am, and I'm very concerned about defamation lawsuits brought against the county for any number of reasons. And so I've mentioned to people, and I'll continue to mention it. I think it's an area where the legislature has a responsibility to prevent that sort of thing from happening to the extent that it can.
Thank you, Colin.
I'm not sure that we might be bridging two separate sets of circumstances. One when the citizen comes versus one when we legislators take exception to some things that have been said. If we're going to have the conversation and stick to this public coming in, that's one comment. I think that defamation, I had that said to me after the last meeting and have done some counsel, and have taken some counsel on that. I think that the concern that I have is, and I think the chairman has indicated that if someone attacks one of our employees, and I guess the word attack needs to be identified, just what is an attack. Is something that I take exception to what an employee has said, is that an attack? If I take exception to something an employee has done, is that an attack? Does it become, I don't know what constitutes an attack. So our citizens would need to know, too, what is an attack by definition for the chairman? Because I don't know what an attack is necessarily. I mean, I certainly know if you come up and put your fist in my face and you do other body gestures, that may well be an attack. But when I'm speaking words to you and I'm asking you questions or taking exception to what you've said, why is that an attack? Is that not taking exception to what you said? And I do need to have clarified from the chairman, because he had indicated that we will not allow an attack. I'd like to understand what it is.
We've had instances, if I may, ma'am.
Yes.
We've had instances when our employees are attacked based on their trustworthiness or their honesty or their lack of ability in the past, and not so much as an apology as we've given. One legislator made a comment, well, if that person can't take it, they ought to develop a thicker skin at one point. Okay?
I think those
Were those comments
They came
not
from me.
rude? Yeah.
Absolutely.
In regard to our clerk? You questioned her integrity and her honesty at one point, and her memory.
Yes, Peter?
I make a motion that we table this motion by Fred until we get more details on how this thing is going to work at the end. When we're going to have it, how long it's going to be, how it's going to be set up.
So we're talking about, Pete. We're here to talk about
Need a
that.
motion.
Yes.
All right.
Precedent here.
Can I have a vote on this?
You have to
Not yet?
First, we need a second and a motion.
We did have.
No.
Oh, to table.
Motion to table. needs a second.
Gene, can I say one thing? Can I just ask Rob one?
I need a second on
Guys,
Peter's.
I'm not trying to
Yeah.
get pain, that takes precedence, and we have to go with that motion by Pete.
Is there a second to Peter's motion to table it? Then it's dies.
Now you can go.
Okay, yes, Bob?
Rob, can we, I understand your liability issue, your thought of the liability issue, but what it's not the legend, can we do a disclaimer? Can you stand up in front and do a disclaimer before the residents have their speech, their time to voice? Because really, they're not representing us. We're the voted officials. We're representing them. It's not saying that we agree with them. They're, like John said, they're the ones paying the taxes. They're the ones that are employing us here. We're all making money off them as far as our paychecks. So I think if we could say a disclaimer, come up with some kind of disclaimer, and like Mr. Chairman said, that he's not going to let anybody get badgered. I don't want to see anyone get badgered either. We're all human, but what is the level of him gaveling the person down to? Is it his interpretation of badgering somebody, or is it somebody directly saying something unsubstantial, shall I say? Is there any way that we can come up with a disclaimer? I mean,
Disclaimer will not give you any absolute shield, and the ultimate decision in an unfortunate situation, if it should happen, would be in the hands of a judge and/or a jury, deciding whether or not a disclaimer would give you protection. And of course, as an attorney, that's something the attorneys try to keep their clients out of those positions, where someone else is making a decision on whether you're liable or not.
Yes, Lenny?
I was just wondering if this discussion that we're having right now has anything to do with the motion itself.
No, I mean, the motion was made to
I think we're-
put the comment period
we were
to the
discussing,
end
yeah.
of the meeting.
I think this was all peripheral, but
Okay,
I have a question.
yes, Helen?
I'm just trying to understand Mr. Shaw's motion to say, rather than let them talk to us for the half an hour, as Pat said, at the beginning of the meeting, let's let them talk about it at the end of the meeting. Now, what's the rationale for doing it at the end? Is it
Because he said we could take care of county business
Well,
and then
if you
listen
take,
to him at the end.
well, I think that, again, it's the people's business. They're coming in, giving us perhaps a comment about something we're going to debate that night.
But he didn't say so he could respond.
It might actually be enlightening if they could, if to do it at the beginning. If we're still going to have it, I just question, why would we move it to the end? I mean, there might be legislators who, well, we've already done the business and get up and excuse themselves from the meeting and not really be present to hear them. And would that be their right to do? Move it to the end so that the people who don't want to hear it walk out? And even though the meeting hasn't been adjourned. The citizens come to us for that 30 minutes, for that 5 minutes, or 3 minutes, or however long they talk. I would think that, let it be in the beginning. It may enlighten us. Let's not think that we're so omnipotent that we know everything. And they might just bring something that may influence a vote later in the meeting. And, our agenda is out there. They'll know what we're going to be talking about. And to put it to the end, I think, is to say, you know, we'll pick you up at the end. It's not too important. It is the people's business. And we do remember that they are paying, the people that come in to talk, that pay, the people who watch it. Just to the libel issue that, or the defamation, or whatever the legal term was that the attorney used. If a citizen is coming in and doing it, are we liable for what they say, or are they liable for what they say? So I question whether we would have to worry about the libel nature. In terms of any employees, obviously officers, may not like what's said. There may be an employee who doesn't. There's a specific case that Mr. Boner refers to. I think I was the one that raised a question. And you know, maybe I didn't do it with the greatest of grace. But I think that I have had questions about information that hasn't been given to me, not specific to the clerk. I've been wrong, and I have apologized when I've been misinformed or I've drawn the wrong conclusion. I'm not above apologizing. I'm willing to do apologies when apologies are in order. If I've missed apologizing to someone, I have no problem being reminded. I do know how to apologize, and I can be very sincere. So I would hope that we'll recognize that our citizens can come in here the way they've been, and that we allow them to speak. And I think, as Mr. Corse has said, the message is out there. Let's try to raise our issues with a little bit more stability, and we should hold ourselves to that same measure. Because in our last meeting, and last two meetings, we've had officers of this county, non-elected, who have challenged our citizens and have been allowed to do it, and the chairman in trying to restore order. And they've been allowed to do it without being recognized, and I think we all need to be held to that measure. But I do not think that the chairman is the individual who necessarily is showing the ability to mediate these things, and I hope that he will consider doing that better. Thank you.
I would entertain voting on the, yes, Jim? Okay.
Certainly, the taxpayer has a right to speak to any of us. Certainly, they can contact us at any time. God knows, I've got 3 phone numbers, 3 addresses, 3 zip codes, 3 everything. So to say that the public can't contact us at any time, you know, I don't know if that's right. God knows, I get tens of emails a day, if not 100 emails a day from people. So there's ways of contacting us. That's beside the point. You know, it just seems that when there's a camera on, everybody takes a whole different demeanor. Why can't the public, and I'm not saying that, you know, again, they can contact us anytime, and I'll listen anytime. I'll listen before a meeting, after a meeting, and in between the meeting. But why, when the camera is on, there's a big show that's put on, it seems. It seems that there's a production put on. When there's no camera, no, hear me out. When there's no camera, everything's calm and quiet. I don't know. You tell me. And I'm trying to maintain a level of decorum in this legislative body so we can conduct the business in an efficient and expedient manner. And that's all I'm asking for. Everyone will get a chance to speak. Just let's do it with decorum and order. And if I give a ruling, that's the ruling. There's rules. I'm trying to go by the rules, people. Everybody wants rules. I'm giving you the rules. We have a committee system in place. And I'd like to see that followed out. And again, I'm not going to make a threat, but if we lose decorum, then don't be surprised.
No, there's a motion on the table.
I thought, no, my hand.
Kurt.
I think Fred was pretty clear, and I don't know if you heard him now. He said he gave a reason why he wanted to move it to the end of the meeting, was so he could respond to some of the comments that are made by some of the public that is misinformation that's out there. That's exactly what Fred said. And you didn't hear that. You added what you wanted to put in there.
No,
and that's where I had a problem.
Are you talking to me?
Because I'm talking to you, too.
Oh, can you do that?
Yeah, I did.
Thank you. I can answer you.
Because Fred was pretty clear on why he wanted to move it. Whether you agree with it or not, that's fine. But
Vote on it, please. Yes. I call the motion.
Point of order.
Bruce has moved to vote on this.
Point of order. When the chairman says you will all get to say what you need to say on this, and this calling the question, preventing that, I understand parliamentarily you can do it, but let's be certain if this should be discussed at another public forum of our legislature, we did not have an opportunity to say all that we had to say, and I want that understood. Thank you.
You can during the debate period.
Move the question.
Yeah, they need a second and a vote to move the question.
Okay. we would need a second on Bruce's, to move the motion from the committee.
I'll make the motion.
You second it?
Do you second it? All in favor of moving the motion to vote?
Aye.
Aye. All in favor?
Opposed?
Opposed?
No.
Peter said no.
Carried.
It's carried. So we'll vote on,
Chairman, can we have
Yes.
that motion that you're voting on articulated exactly on what you're voting, please? Because I'd like to see it in writing, actually, if it were possible.
Yeah.
But I'm not on the committee, so I
there's
guess I can't.
not anything in writing as of yet.
Yeah, I can't answer that.
Fred
question.
has moved,
Absolutely.
Fred has moved to the end.
By end, do we mean after adjournment or prior to adjournment?
Prior.
Prior to adjournment.
That was his motion.
I'm sorry, I just make sure everybody's clear on it. So, okay.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
No. It's carried. If there isn't anything else, I'll adjourn entertain a motion to adjourn. Fred? And second by Ray Johnson. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
7:12.